All right, so talked about making a budget and everything. This is making a plan for your money every month. Okay, and remember that little quote says a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Now, what I recommend is what's called zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting. A lot of times people, and this may be your first time out trying to do a budget, so I understand if you did it this way. But a lot of times people take care of all their bills and expenses. And then, so, okay, X amount of dollars goes to the electric bill, X amount of dollars goes to rent, X amount of dollars goes to gas, X amount of dollars goes to, and they lay it out and they're trying, to budget, which is good. It's a step in the right direction. But then there's this other pile of money that's just miscellaneous. And that's kind of what people use on like food, like eating out, shopping, online purchases, subscriptions, and all that type of stuff. What I'm recommending is what's called zero-based budgeting, where you give every dollar a name, a category, a job. And so that there's no mystery, there's no leftover like miscellaneous category. It's that you say at the beginning of the month, instead of just kind of doing it here and there of, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to eat out on Tuesday and I'm going to eat out on Thursday and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But it's making a conscious plan at the beginning of the month that I'm going to spend this month $200 on eating out. And so therefore you have your eating out money. You have your, okay, this month I'm going to spend X on, $150 on gas. Okay. Now you may not get it right the first time or the first couple times, so you have to practice. But it's actually having a plan for your money. Okay, online shopping. If I can afford it, I'm going to spend this much this month for online shopping. Okay, now there may be times where you don't do those certain things or you give up certain things in order to, get out of debt or whatever the case may be. But the problem is when you have a miscellaneous category, and I don't do this perfectly either, because I have a couple subscriptions that I think I need to get rid of. I have this certain online newspaper subscription that I thought was going to be good, and then I wasn't really reading it as much as I could. And then then they got rid of the option for you to unsubscribe from it online. You have to call. They make it a big pain, but it's probably like, I don't remember how much it is, but it's probably like $10 a month. But that adds up. If you do that with a couple things. So there's like a couple areas like that where there is like a little bit of miscellaneous and miscellaneous just means a category without a particular name. Okay. So zero-based budgeting is that you give every single dollar that comes in has a job, whether you save it, you dedicate it to something like, okay, rent, gas, food, whatever the case may be. And a way you can keep track of this is there's this free site called Mint. Okay, I use it. It's the same company that does like QuickBooks and TurboTax, so it's reputable and trustworthy. It links with your bank account. Now, some people get a little hesitant when they hear that, but it is really a safe thing. I wouldn't tell you guys something that was risky like that I myself use, and it is reputable. But it basically links up with all your accounts, and it keeps track of every dollar that you spend, basically. And you can do budgets on there, and you can kind of see where you're spending. and all those different type of things. And you can go on there and it will kind of guess the categories. So if it's like you pay at McDonald's, it recognizes, okay, McDonald's, restaurant. It says, okay, restaurants, fast food, puts that in a category. But sometimes it doesn't understand what the category is. But I recommend it. Mint is a good one. And it's free. Okay. And you can also hook it to multiple accounts. So I have it hooked to like a bank account. I have it hooked to like my investment accounts so that I can look at it all on one place and see, okay. And it allows you to have goals like save up, X amount of dollars per month to save for paying for a house. I have even my Coinbase account attached to it. Okay. So you can, it's a good program. Every Dollar is another version of that. That's not the same company, but it's I think Dave Ramsey's company built it actually. It's an app. There's a free version of it. There's a paid version of it, but the paid version of it allows you to have some functionalities that are very specific and to make make a plan for every dollar. Okay. And so supposedly that one's very good as well. You have to have kind of some self-knowledge here. Are you a saver or are you a spender? And neither one of those, by the way, are right or wrong necessarily. Neither one of those have moral connotations to them. Sometimes people think that you should be a saver and not a spender. That's actually not what I'm saying. And actually, it's pretty common for people who are one saver and one spender to get married. So this is one of those things that you need to be aware of and talking with people and figuring out in a relationship. But only if you're married. You don't combine finances otherwise. There's just not the same social and legal situation. Okay. But anyway, and if you're married, you do a household budget where you work as a team. If you're single, so it is easier in a sense to be to budget because your consequences only affect you, but you also don't have somebody on your team, to kind of talk with. So you should have an accountability partner, somebody who knows you and is willing to be gracious to you, but be a little bit tough with you, and basically hold you to what you committed to doing. Okay, so that's what like an accountability partner is, but also somebody who actually knows about and is not perfect, but is growing in this area of finances. So it shouldn't be somebody who's just at the same level you are. It doesn't need to be somebody who's perfect, but it needs to be somebody who you trust and respect with how they handle their money. And there can be people that we love and respect in other ways, but we don't want to follow them financially. So anyway, okay, step 3, you save 3 to 6 months of expenses. Okay, so remember steps 1 and 2, emergency fund of $1,000, get rid of all debt. And then step 3, 3 to 6 months of expenses in case of a lost job or an emergency that causes lost work. You don't start this until you've gotten rid of all your debt, okay, except your house. And then you have to figure out, looking at, which should be easier after doing a household budget over some time, how much do you need to live on for 3 to 6 months? And then you just decide, okay, some people are okay with having 3 months. Some people are okay with having 6 months. And you put that money there, you leave it alone. Okay. Now, this helps you also avoid debt, because if there is some sort of emergency, you don't have to go back into debt, or it's not as easy to go back into debt. Okay. Now, remember, it is stupid financial decisions are only one step away, right? We've all made them, and we're all, we want to minimize them, right? If not eliminate them. But it only takes a couple financial decisions that can undo a lot of good work. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It's easier to build these things up over time than a couple things tearing it back down. Okay, so don't go back into debt. But this is what this is for. It creates stability and flexibility, allows you a level of freedom with your job as well, that you're not, you're not owned by whoever you're working for. I don't mean that in a chattel way, but I just mean that you have options. And so after you have no debt and 3 to 6 month buffer, you basically have a pay raise. You get to keep more of your money, right? You don't have debt payments. You have your bills, but after working a budget, you know where every dollar is going. You've saved up 3 to 6 months of expenses to protect yourself and to free yourself. And now it's like you've got all this money coming in. Eventually, this stuff gets easier and becomes, once you've built the discipline, done the hard work in the beginning, and met some goals, it becomes a lot easier. And then it just becomes kind of a game. Your money comes in during the month, and you know where you're putting it, and you just continue to see progress and see growth. And so it's like you've given yourself a pay raise. So even if you want to get your income up, but even if your income remains the same over all this time, you still see the benefits of your income increasing. Okay. Then step 4. Don't do this until step 4. Now, some of you may actually be able to get to step 4. I mean, where you're at in life right now, step 4 may be right now for some of you guys. Kind of depends, and your life is going to change as you graduate high school and move forward into college and stuff. So your big thing right now may be focusing on college and career. Okay, so that's fine. So you may not need to worry about investing or things like that right now, but start thinking about these things. Now, invest 15% of household income for retirement. Okay, so we'll look at this. I'll show you how to do this and everything. Remember, I don't give investment advice, but I will show how someone could invest in mutual funds, and what's there, what these things mean, and how to look at these things and decide whether or not you want to invest, and the potential for growth there. Okay. There's these different types of investment accounts called the Roth IRA and IRA, 401k, which you've probably heard of a 401k. My recommendation to you is not to depend on Social Security. Social Security, basically, it has more people taking out of it than putting in. And it's been that way for a long time. I just don't think that with the amount of people retiring and drawing on the system, that it's going to be the same amount of benefits that were there, an amount of years ago. If you get it, okay. If you don't, I wouldn't depend on it. Okay, so you have to plan your own retirement. The government is not going to plan the retirement you want for you, and hoping for Social Security is not going to be the sound way to go about that. Okay, but anyway, this is a step to building long-term wealth that goes beyond just savings. I'm talking about investing. That goes beyond just putting money in an account and letting it just sit there and be eaten away by inflation. Okay, now there is value to having the 3 to 6 month emergency fund or whatever, but if you want to see your money grow, we've got to learn about investing, which I'm going to teach you guys. But even a couple $100s a month can lead to likely over $1 million by retirement. Okay, so if you do this step, and you guys have a huge advantage on your side, which is the advantage of time, that your age of where you are now relative to where you plan to retire, you have more time than a lot of other people, than most other people. And so you have the advantage here of being able to invest potentially early. Maybe not right now, but maybe in your 20s. And if you can do that with no debt and other things, there's no reason why you shouldn't retire a millionaire. Okay. Now, let me tell you when not to invest. Okay. You don't invest without an emergency fund. Okay. A lot of people are like, all right, I had a friend yesterday, we were talking, and he was saying that a friend of his came up and was like asking him about Bitcoin. Okay. And I don't have any hate toward Bitcoin, but it's not a strategy I recommend in these steps. Okay, let's just say that. But anyway, this guy was like, I want to buy a house. Would you recommend me throwing my savings into Bitcoin and, hoping it? And he was like, I told him no. I was like, well, good thing you told him no. That's what I would have told him too. There's no way that's a sound financial strategy, but it's like people think that's the same with investing. They're like, okay, I need to double my money, but it's like, well, wait a second. Investing is a step that it takes place in a particular order. It doesn't make you money quickly. It doesn't make you money, otherwise people just throw money into investments and make money, and you wouldn't need to do any of the rest of this stuff. It's something you do in order of events. You have an emergency fund. You get out of debt, okay, except for your house. You do not borrow money to invest, okay? And you don't do it to get rich quick. In fact, the type of investing I recommend is called long-term investing, where the shortest possible term of investment is 5 years, okay? Now you want to let it grow over 30 years, right? You guys have that advantage because when you're 20, let's say you invest some money when you're 20, 30 years from then, you're 50. You could have over $1 million of investing, a little bit when in your 20s, but you're not going to get it out when you're 21 and be a millionaire. Okay. So step 4 is to invest 15% of household income, which is your gross household income before taxes. So if you make $50,000 a year pre-tax, 15% of that is $7,500 per year. Let me do the math on that per month. 7,500 divided by 12, $625 a month being invested into, which we'll look at, invested into mutual funds. Okay. Now that may sound like a lot. And it is. $625 is not, you could, I'm sure, find other things to spend it on. It's not a small amount of money. But if you don't have debt, you don't have payments for debt, you have 3 to 6 months of expenses, and you have a budget where you have a plan for where everything's going, it becomes easier to have a plan of, okay, well, in my monthly budget, I just set aside $625 a month out of that, right? And you build that discipline in as well. Okay, that's part of having that pay raise. Now, why do you do this? Now, of course, there's the retirement calculator of kind of how much time there is to retirement, how much you have now saved, how much you need to invest monthly in order to get to that retirement goal. Let me show you some of the potential here. Okay. So watch this. Talked about the compound interest. Now, for investing, we'll have an investment project, but there's also, in the investment project, a lot of times people want to invest in single stocks because these are names that you've heard of, which makes some sense. You expect Coca-Cola, Amazon, McDonald's, Walmart to be successful. Well, these are names that you already associate with success. So a lot of times people think investing is just putting your money into single stocks. But I think the wiser path to take are what are called mutual funds. And a mutual fund is buying stock in several stocks at once. It's a mutual fund is a fund that pulls together and represents a lot of different stocks. And uh, that's why they're stable in their growth a lot of times, because it's not just dependent on one company. Okay, you can put there stability and growth. So, for example, you have let me just put here as well, the S&P 500, okay, is a grouping of 500 companies that you can follow the line of how has the S&P 500 grown over decades. And you can see a consistent pattern of growth. And so, for example, there is a mutual fund, and remember, this is not financial advice, but there is a mutual fund family called whose symbol name is VFIAX, okay, which is just the S&P 500 that you can look up and learn about. Again, not telling you to go invest in these things. I'm just saying this is what a mutual fund is. And so you look for mutual funds that are at the S&P 500 or that beat the S&P 500. And there's some articles on that I'll share at another time of, okay, here are 3 or 4 mutual funds that have outperformed in their growth over 5 years, have outperformed the S&P 500. And then you look at those and you make your decision on whether or not you want to invest in those. So a mutual fund is a diversified stock portfolio. And so that means that rather than just being, okay, is McDonald's doing well or not doing well? It being diversified, meaning it's a fund that goes into a bunch of different companies that shows consistent growth rather than just depending on one company. So there are 4 different types that are recommended, and you kind of spread your money across these: growth, aggressive growth, growth and income, and international. And this will usually show consistent growth for your money. Okay. There are these different savings plans: 401k, which is a retirement savings plan sponsored by an employer. It's deducted from your paycheck before being taxed. That allows employees to save and invest. Okay, so the employee controls how much is invested, but the problem is with this one is that it's taxed when you take it out. Okay, so the amount of money that over your working career lifetime that's going in there, it's a low amount of money, but as it's growing, well, that's good. You see, okay, it's growing, that's good. You're going to take it out, but when you take it out, it's a bigger amount of money, and that gets taxed. Okay, there's an IRA, which is an individual retirement account, which the individual makes contributions that are tax deferred until withdrawn in retirement, meaning the money that you make and put into this doesn't get taxed, but it does get taxed when it's taken out. There's the Roth IRA, which is an individual retirement account as well. And I personally like this one because it taxes it on the front end when you put the smaller amount of money in, and then as it grows, when you take it out in retirement, it's a tax-free withdrawal. So I'd rather personally pay the tax on the money that I put in the first time it's already taxed, and then not be taxed when I take it out after it's grown, and take it out in retirement. thing is with this, you can only do $6,000 a year. Used to be like 5,500, but you can do $6,000 a year. So you can't do more than that. So it may not be 15%, do that full 15%. So you'd have to invest other ways. But also, one thing is, I think you can't take this out, can't withdraw before retirement age. Okay, so you have to wait until you're, I think 59 and a half is what it is. So I'll have to look that up and confirm. But yes, those are the challenges with this type of retirement account. Now, investing, guys have probably been on a roller coaster before. You may like them or you may not. However, even if you don't like a roller coaster, you cannot decide in the middle of the ride on the roller coaster, say, okay, I'm getting out. I'm out of this. This is too scary. I don't like it. I'm feeling sick. I'm not enjoying this. This isn't fun. You can't decide in the middle of the roller coaster to unbuckle your seatbelt and get out. And it's a similar principle with investing. The only people who get hurt on a roller coaster are those who jump out before the ride is over. Now, there are such things as bad investments and bad, stocks to invest in, but if you're looking at these mutual funds over time, what you'll see is growth, and then it comes down, goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay. What's the difference between this and going and putting your money in Vegas, in gambling, buying a lottery ticket? The difference is Vegas, you are very likely to lose your money. Almost 100% likely to lose your money. The rule in Vegas is the house always wins. That's how it works at a casino. Okay. So people lose a lot of money on gambling. Now, and people also lose a lot of money in stocks. So what's the difference? What makes these things different? Well, the difference is with mutual funds and being careful with your money and investing in things that have a consistent pattern of growth. Gambling doesn't have that. Okay, so what you have to do is one of the hardest things, and a lot of people don't have I don't know if they don't have, or they just haven't practiced with it enough, but they don't have the stomach for it. They put their money into a mutual fund and they see that it's gone down and they're like, oh my God, I lost my money. And they take it out and then it goes back up. In fact, I'm going to show you guys at some point, it was a King of Queens episode that's kind of funny that I'm going to show us on that, where they keep buying high and selling low because they keep panicking. And they didn't do their research. They didn't know about the stock and all that type of stuff. So you have to know what it is you're doing. You have to don't invest in something you don't know about. Okay. But you have to leave the money in the market, right? Long-term trends of growth over time after even severe drops. Here's the Dow Jones. Okay. You may have heard this term, may not have. Okay. But look, there is a consistent upward trend of growth, but if somebody was bought here and sold down, and then they're like, I've lost money. Well, truthfully, you haven't lost the money until you've taken it out. You haven't gained the money until you've taken it out. You just need to wait. Okay. So anyway, step 5, save for college. Save and invest for children's college if you have kids. It's 529 or ESA, education savings account. Okay, these are good ways to do this. If you have a kid and you have 18 years, you got a lot of time to plan and figure out, and you may even be able to pay cash for college, depending on where But you need to encourage, this is what I encourage you guys as well, affordability. It's one of the steps that people think they can skip with college, that if they have a dream college in mind, they think that affordability does not matter. And I say you got to do the cost benefit analysis on that. And we'll talk about that more in the future. But if steps 1 through 4 are followed, it is possible to pay cash for college in some circumstances. Encourage work, pay for college, pursue scholarships, avoid student loan debt. Then we'll talk about paying off a house early. Okay, this is usually people's biggest expense is rent or a mortgage or their house. Okay, so but if you pay it off early, you get to keep that amount of money that you would normally have to give away. You'd be saving time, and you'd be saving potentially thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in interest. Step 7, continue to just maintain, build wealth, and give. Okay, emergency fund, no debt, no payments, retirement, building wealth, able to live, house paid off, able to live the lifestyle that you want, financial stability, financial freedom, and you get to do whatever you want. And you can also, a lot of people discover when they get to this point, they have everything they need and they really don't need any more, or feel like that they're going to be satisfied with more. And so they realize, you know what? I need to figure out kind of something else to do to help other people. And now you're in a position, not that you still give and help people along the way. It's not like, I'm not saying that you don't do this until this point, but you put yourself in a position to help other people and change other people's lives as well. And said this at the end, this quote, "A dream without a plan is called a wish." Okay, people have all kinds of wishes, right? There's the Disney song, "When You Wish Upon a Star," right? But unless you have a plan, it's not going to happen. But if you follow this plan, there's no reason why you shouldn't become a millionaire or a multimillionaire in retirement.